The coronavirus has changed life as we know it across America.
Long lines at this New York grocery store with empty shelves, a regular sight. One example of how daily life in America is changing.
The coronavirus presents a public health emergency in the United States.
Washington reports the first coronavirus-related death in the country. They become the first state to issue a state of emergency. Several states follow as we enter the month of March.
A public health emergency.
A declaration of emergency.
State of emergency.
COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
Officially declaring a national emergency.
The last 2 weeks of March, almost 10 million people file new unemployment claims.
The virus putting essential workers especially at risk.
As the frontline workers continue to battle the pandemic, cities lit themselves up in blue.
Florida, New Jersey, and Michigan have reported worsening outbreaks of their own.
The U.S. now leading the world in deaths, with the coronavirus claiming more than 20,000 American lives.
There are concerns about testing in Florida, too. Reports of backlogs and some sites turning people away.
Projections in the U.S. are grim.
The World Health Organization warns the United States could become the world epicenter of the outbreak.
The U.S. death toll has doubled in the past week, with no signs of slowing down.
An endless line of ambulances waits to drop patients at hospitals.
A heartbreaking milestone for the United States, now with more COVID-19 deaths than any other country.
COVID-19 is now the leading killer of Americans.
At this point, the coronavirus hits all 50 states.
This is truly an unprecedented situation.
COVID, the way it has affected me, currently I'm unemployed. I had to move back home to Palm Springs, that's where I'm from, so I'm back in my mom's house. And I guess I'm gonna be staying here for another 7 months.
My mom and my sister, they're both considered essential workers. You know, it's kind of difficult hearing them go to work every single day and just knowing that, you know, maybe today is the day that they might get sick or something.
I no longer have a job. I depended on that job for bills, so I pay my phone bill, my car insurance. Now I have to go and get my financial aid emergency money and pay for those bills, and now I rarely have any safety money.
I realized that as more and more information came out, especially on like how many people it was affecting and how fast it was spreading, that we were dealing with something that may put myself or my family or the people that I really love in harm's way.
Luckily, my mom and my sister still have a job. And so, you know, luckily they're still getting paid. They're still getting, you know, their income.
I actually had an aunt that was on a respirator for a little while. She was a, quite healthy woman, and she was on a respirator for about a week, and it was not looking good for a while. And then she started to get better when they treated her for the malaria treatments or so. And then of course, like, her husband also got it, but he was fine.
There was one person who did test positive at my mom's work for the virus. And even then, they still did not put the proper safety precautions that they probably should have. The only thing they really did was take away the door from the bathroom so that, you wouldn't have to touch the doorknob, but she had to keep going to work because we needed the money.
Although we're now still starting to open things up slightly, it still feels as if there's this imminent threat that pretty much waits for all of us as soon as we step outside our doors.
For starters, my parents have lost many close friends and some relatives to the disease, so it's been very real in my household especially. Me personally, it's affected my anxiety, and it's heightened all of my senses basically, and I'm terrified to even walk outside my house.
I decided to stay in Davis. I went home for spring break, but ultimately it was decided between me and my parents that I'm safer here. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, If one person gets sick, there's nowhere to self-isolate them. We're all crowded on top of 5 people in a house are all crowded on top of each other. If one person gets sick, that's it, we're all sick.
Public life in the United States, though, is slowly grinding to a halt.
The Bay Area tells residents to stay home, barring essential needs. It's the first major U.S. city to enact a measure like this.
New Jersey today becoming the 6th state to close all non-essential businesses, joining California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. More than 80 million Americans now told to stay at home.
My administration is recommending that all Americans, including the young and healthy, work to engage in schooling from home when possible, avoid gathering in groups of more than 10 people, avoid discretionary travel, and avoid eating and drinking at bars, restaurants, and public food courts.
California issues a statewide stay-at-home order. Several states soon follow suit.
Stay at home.
Stay home, stay safe.
Quite simply, stay at home.
In LA, the iconic Grauman's Chinese Theater is no longer filled with tourists. Chicago's Millennium Park cleared out. And the usually bustling Las Vegas Strip is almost entirely deserted.
Any place people congregate is a place where coronavirus can be spread.
Quarantine has been decent. I'm back in my childhood home and my childhood bedroom, hanging out with my family and my dogs. It's been a nice break, despite all the anxiety.
This is me personally. I think that you really get to think about who you are and what you do, and like this is where you get to plan more.
My family is doing okay financially, luckily, and I've been able to do school online. I have access to the internet, so I've been able to keep up with my studies.
I do get antsy sometimes because I always want to go outside, but again, not the worst thing ever. I am not in the worst position during this pandemic, and so I'm incredibly grateful for that.
It is very, very, very lonely, and I try to call my parents, call my sisters, at least once a day.
My sleep schedule got pretty bad where I'd be like waking up at like 4 p.m. and so, you know, just not seeing others, and I'm not very good at phone calls and stuff like that, just like me, and so that the fact that that's the only way that I can communicate it's kind of tricky.
I can definitely see it taking a toll on many people's mental health. You know, I kind of feel it too.
It's a little isolating, and I just have to find things like phone calls and Zoom chats and online movie screenings to make me feel a little less lonely.
It sucks because I want to go out, I want to go to the beaches, I want to go to the park, I want to be with friends, I want to be with family, but I know that if I do go outside, I am putting my life on the line. I am risking my life to get the coronavirus, and I don't want that to happen.
For the stay-at-home orders, valid. I think they're fine. I think that's what they had to do. And I think that's, you know, we've seen that it's working, I guess.
It's right. I think it should continue going on.
I approve of the stay-at-home orders.
My opinion on the stay-at-home orders is that they're necessary and it's due to public health.
To be honest, I think, at least in regards to California, that it was the right call and that we should be staying at home.
I think that the measures, at least that our governor, Gavin Newsom, is taking to make sure that we stay at home to cut the spread or to flatten the curve, I think that all of them are appropriate.
My opinion on stay-at-home orders, I think, are great. They're safe. It keeps everyone safe. You know, it sucks for the time being, but I mean, I think they're just great. Everybody should be doing it. Do their part.
I think that it's important that we all should stay home and do our part and do our best to flatten the curve.
I would definitely say that there hasn't been enough done for those people who are having an especially hard time staying at home because they are out of work and they cannot pay. For example, the whole rent situation, I would say that we should probably not allow landlords to evict people right now. It just doesn't make any sense. And if the landlords are in financial trouble, then they should also be getting financial support from the government.
No matter what you think of the situation, you should be respectful to the people that are being affected by it.
I think the stay-at-home order is very appropriate. I think Governor Newsom will open it when scientific studies show that he should.
Over the last several weeks, Fox News, particularly some of its most popular hosts, have done this utterly insane about-face. They started by echoing the president's line, downplaying the coronavirus, saying it was just like the seasonal flu, that Democrats are weaponizing and hyping it, and then turned around and started saying, this is deadly serious.
This is yet another attempt to impeach the president. And sadly, it seems they care very little for any of the destruction they are leaving in their wake. We must test for the virus in order to stop the spread of it. What could be a very great recession. Some predicting even a depression.
We're going to call out anyone and everyone who's using this virus as a political weapon against the president. The standard flu every single year kills tens of thousands of Americans. We are now entering what will be the crucial defining 15-day period as it relates to this virus, where we must slow the spread of coronavirus.
In a great piece in the New York Times, Ben Smith writes about how destructive the Fox News message has been. Quote, I asked Ashish Jha, the director of the Harvard Global Public Health Institute, who appeared on Fox News recently, whether he believes people will die because of Fox's coverage. Yes, he said. Some commentators in the right-wing media spread a very specific type of misinformation that I think has been very harmful.
I think we're all divided. I think we're also trying to figure out what to do in this difficult situation. There's people that want things to be open, and there's people that don't want things to be open.
I think the press is treating COVID-19 pretty seriously on most platforms.
I want to trust the press. I want to look at an article and believe the things that they're saying, but at the same time, I do think it's a money game. You get clicks, and that's how you pay like your livelihood.
I believe that COVID-19 is a very real, terrible, awful threat, and I think a lot of other people do too, but sometimes you are not aware of how biased the media you're being fed is through the internet.
There are some that have made it very political, and it doesn't really need to be political because it's a world health issue and everyone is dealing with it.
It's everywhere, it's all in your face constantly, and it can be a lot.
It's very exhausting just to be seeing that all over the news, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter. I mean, it's everywhere.
I feel mostly just comforted in the fact that I feel like I'm always being caught up with information, whether it's bad or not. It just is making me aware that, at least for what the media is telling me right now, is that we still have cases being confirmed, and of course there's no vaccine, and we may be doing a good job of flattening the curve, but I think still that there's a lot of work to be done, and I think that's what the media is reaffirming, and I, in my own opinion, agree with that too.
Do you have a plan to contain the coronavirus in the U.S.?
We do have a plan, and we think it's going to be handled very well. We've already handled it very well. Because of all we've done, the risk to the American people remains very low. People die from the flu, and this is very unusual. And it is a little bit different, but in some ways it's easier, and in some ways it's a little bit tougher. View this the same as the flu. When somebody sneezes, I mean, I try and bail out as much as possible. Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. And this is their new hoax. It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear. The virus will not have a chance against us. No nation is more prepared or more resilient than the United States. And what a great timeline this would be. Easter as our timeline, what a great timeline that would be. Just don't want to wear one myself. It's a recommendation. They recommend it. I'm feeling good. I just don't want to be doing, I don't know, somehow sitting in the Oval Office behind that beautiful Resolute desk. The great Resolute desk. I think wearing a face mask as I greet presidents, prime ministers, dictators, kings, queens, I don't know, somehow I don't see it for myself. I just maybe I'll change my mind. I'm sure people will be very happy to get a big, fat, beautiful check and my name is on it. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use a medical doctor. If somebody lost somebody, a parent or a wife or a husband or, you know, any brothers, sisters, if you lost someone, you could never make up for that by saying, wow, you're going to have a great year next year economically. And so you can never do that. But I will say that from an economic standpoint, I think next year is going to be a very big year.
I would say the fact that he was calling it a hoax, or at least not exaggerating, but the opposite, like sort of downplaying how much of a problem it was early on, was a, you know, could have indirectly led to thousands of deaths.
I think anything that he's said that's absolutely so stupid, nobody, you know, like what was it, the detergent thing, it's just like, of course, you know, of course he's going to say that.
It's all about his image. He doesn't care about us. He cares about his own image and how he looks on TV.
And an interesting tidbit is that back in 2016, he pretty much disbanded our pandemic readiness team. So because of that, we were a lot less prepared now. So once again, indirectly causing thousands of deaths.
I think from the beginning, I think that his administration had taken away a lot of the safety protocols and regulations that were in place to handle a pandemic. So right away, I already knew that President Trump alone would not be able to properly handle the pandemic, in my personal opinion, and his administration as well.
He isn't treating it like a serious health issue or an issue that everyone in the world has been dealing with. He really just focuses on Americans and how the left is flubbing all of the data, and it's all a scam.
There has been reports that he knew about this since January and didn't act on this until later. Come on.
He is, as he has always been, very immature around press. And also just the fact that he talked about denying governors resources because they were not being respectful enough. As if you should let people die because of one person not acting polite enough. I mean, it's horrifying.
And it just seems now with the way that he gives press conferences and the way that he releases information, it seems like the motivation is, or the MO is always just covering his own behind and also just making us still seem like the most dominant country in the world. And I think those are both completely the wrong ways to go about handling this pandemic and taking care of the people of the United States.
As our country's streets lay deserted and quiet in the midst of our global pandemic, the sounds of American protesters have gone largely silent until now.
Our new normal does not mean that we will sacrifice our freedoms for our safety.
Demonstrations around the country against stay-at-home orders. The protesters rallying in state capitals, calling the orders too extreme and a violation of their rights.
Time for our state to be opened up. We're tired of not being able to buy the things that we need, go to the hairdressers, get our hair done. It's time to open up.
For the past few days, this sentiment has moved throughout the country in small pockets.
Thousands descending on Michigan's Capitol in Lansing to protest the governor's current stay-at-home rules.
I truly believe that restrictions should have been put on the people that are sick, that are coming down with the illness. I truly believe that there are some people that are at a higher risk than others. Us people that are at a lower risk, I feel like we should have continued out our lives and continued working.
Our best defense is a healthy immune system.
and I take care of my body. I eat the right food, I take vitamins, I drink the right water. Vitamin D, vitamin C, it's been proven already. So we have everything that we need. We don't need a vaccine.
I know that people are angry, and that's okay. And if you want to take it out and send it my way, makes you feel better, that's fine. We know that this rally endangered people. When people gather that way without masks, they were in close proximity, they were touching one another, that's how COVID-19 spreads. And so the sad irony here is that the protest was that they don't like being in this stay-home order, and they may have just created a need to lengthen it.
Unless we get the virus under control, the real recovery economically is not going to happen. So what you do if you jump the gun and go into a situation where you have a big spike, you're going to set yourself back.
Our beaches are safer than being cooped up at home. Our beaches are safer than being cooped up at home.
Open our beach! Open our beach! Open our
Once you have the attention of the President of the United States, the impact can potentially be massive, and maybe we're looking at influencing policy and reopening the country sooner than some health experts probably wanted to.
What is your opinion on protests going on? I think they're stupid because our freedom isn't being taken away. You're gonna get sick. There's a chance you might die, or you might spread it to someone else who can die. Do you really want death just to get a little bit of freedom? I don't understand the mindset that these people have. I don't understand.
I think the protests against stay-at-home orders are literally like the most stupid thing. But I remember someone saying to me that they were like, America is the people that are gonna get antsy with it, and of course.
I get annoyed with the fact that they're not taking this seriously. They're like claiming that their freedom is being taken away, when in actuality it's not even being taken at all. It's just being contained in a way.
It's not like you can't go outside. Look at me. I'm outside. You know, it's not like you're barred from going outside. You can step outside your home. Just don't be dumb. Be smart about it.
You're allowed to go outside. You need some sun. Okay, go to your front porch or your backyard or outside your house or apartment and get that sun, get the breeze and stuff. But do you really have to travel to a beach, depending where you live, because you need some sun?
It just sucks that they're in such highly populated areas that it's, kind of ruining it for the rest of us,
I think there are a lot of factors that go into people feeling this need to demonstrate a resistance against the government and the scientists' pleas for people to stay at home and to social distance. I think that they're afraid, of course, because our country is not properly supporting people who are feeling a loss economically because they're not able to go to work and they're not able to continue business as usual. So I understand people's frustrations. I think protesting stay-at-home orders and social distancing orders is wrong because that is not going to keep people safe, and that is working against fighting the pandemic specifically. And I think if anything, it just goes to show that our country is not properly supporting the people that need that financial support and that mental health support to push through this pandemic properly.
I understand where some people are coming from in regards to financial situations, and I think in general a lot of people are protesting for more selfish reasons rather than I'm desperate and I need help.
I think they're just foolish. This is where you see how much people are entitled. They think they're entitled to things such as haircuts, like salons, getting their nails done, basic stuff, restaurants, and a lot of it is just because they want to go. It's not that they're working. I mean, I understand people who are protesting to open up their businesses that they're running.
I don't think practicing freedom of speech is dumb, but I think those signs of people holding, I need a haircut. Okay, if you need a haircut, it's not that you want to go back to work. You want all these other people to return to work. for your own benefit. And I just think that's like pretty selfish. So one thing is protesting, like I want to go back to work, like I don't have means to stay. But one thing is being like, I need my nails done, I need my hair done, I need like, I don't know. I don't agree with it.
My opinion on the protests going on, especially in Orange County, where I'm from, is absolutely disgusting, and it's very disappointing because it's a public health issue that needs to be taken seriously, and these people are trying to make it something that it's not.
Where do you find hope during these times? Just talking to people, talking to friends and family through FaceTime, and just making sure how they're doing, seeing how their day's going, and just knowing that I'm not alone, that we're all in this together, and there will be a day where I can see them face to face instead of online.
I find hope in looking out my window and seeing the world continue. I find hope in waking up each morning and knowing it's a new day, and hopefully the day that everything goes back to normal.
The only way I find hope is that it's just time, it's just time.
Where do I find hope during these times? Honestly, I just look at time. I am a firm believer that time is the greatest healer.
And just talking to other people really helps. I miss people and I want to talk to them more. But talking to people around me and friends who reach out has been nice.
I also find hope in knowing that when this is over, I will be able to hug my friends and talk to people that I love that I haven't been able to see.
I guess just the understanding of like, we'll get out of this. Like, it's not forever. Like, it can't be forever.
I am hopeful that we are going to bounce back after this and continue to pursue our dreams and to still be living and to be grateful for the things that we do have and the people that we love. And I don't think that this pandemic is going to stop that. I think, of course, there are a lot of people who are going to be pretty like emotionally and mentally hindered because of the people that we're losing in this pandemic. And of course, because a lot of people, like myself included, feel really set back because we're all stuck at home right now and everything in a sense came to a halt. But we still have our health, and we still have the people that we love, and we have all of this amazing technology to keep us connected. So that does keep me hopeful, and it makes me still want to continue to be involved and find new ways to be creative and just keep connecting with the people I love.
You can't always see the changes that coronavirus is making to the way we will be living our lives.
If back to normal means acting like there never was a coronavirus problem, I don't think that's going to happen until we do have a situation where you can completely protect the population.
As people, as cities, as countries, we can sometimes find ourselves measuring life in the days before and after something serious has changed us. This is one of those moments.
The COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to change our routines, lifestyles and habits, and many will be desperate for life to go back to pre-coronavirus days. But until a vaccine becomes widely available, society will undergo a radical transformation.
How will the world look after all this? Home is where most of us now spend our time, sitting and wondering how we get back to the world we knew.
I expect that life will be a lot more lovey, if that makes sense. I feel people will be more appreciative of each other after so much time away. Having human contact again will definitely bring out a lot of love in people.
I like to think there will be a deeper enjoyment of life. People will be more grateful and creative and really experience the things that they want to experience.
I don't know how life will look after these things because, you know, I keep forgetting. Like, I have to remind myself that, like, not everything is going to snap back to normal, and it might not ever snap back to normal.
To be honest, I feel like nothing is going to change with the way when this pandemic is over, because with the way people are protesting to get out and, like, be about, it's noticeable that they're not going to keep this in mind, that it can happen again. I don't think things will change after, because humanity is really selfish.
I think this pandemic, which has a lot to do with health and contagion, I think will make us be a little more of a cautious generation.
I think hopefully, like, this will kind of be a lesson, which is, like, you know, there's a lot more manpower to hygiene.
I think that personal hygiene and just cleanliness in general is going to become much more strict in regards to just social standards and societal standards.
It's gonna change a lot. Mostly more like health practices. That's gonna change a lot, especially in like stores and stuff. Because before, when you went to the store, you never saw a glass window like blocking the employee and the customer, but now you see it, and like at first I was like, okay, that's really weird, but it makes sense. Even before this pandemic happened, I feel like now it should have been implemented a long time ago. And then when I see drive-through workers with their gloves, you know, giving the food to the customers and stuff, that makes sense a lot too. Even like I feel like that should have been done beforehand. So now I feel like after this thing that they're gonna keep with that and hopefully improve, you know, better health practices.
I think people will still have a distance from other people. And what I mean by that is that when we are finally able to go outside and we're finally able to do our normal things, I think there's going to be a distance.
I think we will continue to wear like face masks and gloves and be really conscious of germs moving forward, even if coronavirus were to find a vaccine, just considering like the flu and other like illnesses that happen annually, I think it will be taken more seriously.
After this, I also think I think globalization needs to slow down, and I don't know if this is actually going to do that. It feels like a force that is almost too powerful for almost anything to stop, but I would hope that in regards to just the state of our environment right now, we're seeing how globalization affects our health, and it's scary.
Once this is all quote-unquote over, I think all of us are going to count our blessings, and we're going to want to work harder and of course safer than ever to make sure that we're doing everything in the best way that we can continue to reach our dreams and to just not take life for granted. And that would be, out of a lot of the things that we should take seriously and are harmful about this pandemic, that is the one thing to at least look forward to.
Recently, I saw a picture where the New York Governor Cuomo, he unveiled an entire collage of masks that were sent across the U.S. to New York to help them with the mask shortage. Cuomo, he called it the something about how unified America is. I didn't really pay much attention to the title because I thought just the entire idea was kind of stupid, and I couldn't believe that he actually did that. You know, these politicians, during a time of crisis, during this pandemic, all these politicians are doing is trying to make themselves look good. Cuomo was trying to make himself look good. Those masks that he used in the collage, they weren't sent to be used in a collage. They were sent to be used in hospitals. These nurses need masks, and Cuomo was using them as a show, as something to make himself look good. Like, look at what I did, you know? And I just think it's really ridiculous that he's not taking care of his citizens. He's just trying to make himself look good.
I just think that, you know, there's another point of like the certain levels of privilege where it's like, everyone can quarantine only to their best ability. If you still have a family member that's an essential worker, you can't, you're not going to be completely quarantined. Versus someone that's I have a friend that's staying alone by themselves right now that has the money to ship in his food to him. He doesn't, some people just don't have that access.
This quarantine has definitely been rough, if I'm being completely honest, especially being away from my friends and school. It's definitely feels like my life is on pause.
Yeah, it is very difficult what's going on outside, and it can be very challenging to not pay attention to the news. And what I mean by that is that everybody's talking about this online, social media, TV, and so I think it's best that you do want to be informed, but I think it's also important that you should also find something to do, some activity, a hobby to get your mind off things. Talk to friends, family, see how they're doing, check up on them, and just know that you are not alone and that we will get through this together.
I think people who feel that they've lost out on a lot of opportunities but still have their health and are looking for a brighter side to this, I think that we all should, number one, kind of step back and just forgive ourselves if we have disconnected in the past few months, or if we have kind of stepped away from wanting to be motivated in classes or personal extracurricular activities. I think that's okay. I think we shouldn't be hard on ourselves because we're not creating our magnum opus, or because we're not, we aren't the best versions of ourselves. I think it's okay right now that everybody has really been affected negatively and taken a toll. And I think if we just focus more on making sure that the people that we care about are okay, and that we're supporting the people that mostly need it with anything that we can give, I think that's going to actually help heal us. And I think it's going to bring back that humanity that might begin to overall help to give us the better outcome once this pandemic is over.
This crisis isn't going to get any better if no one takes it seriously. Those of us who are taking it seriously are going to be screwed over by those who aren't.